Pink Floyd has that Money for Nothing song, right? Darian Whitney asked his brother Reese. No, that's Dire Straits, I think, Reese replied. Oh. Darian started putting the gray Pink Floyd shirt with the rainbow prism back on the rack. Reese snatched it from his hand, saying, Wait, Pink Floyd has Comfortably Numb, Money. Oh, that's probably what made you think Money for Nothing. Wish You Were Here. A bunch of other songs I know but couldn't tell you the names of. Well, it sounds like a shirt you should wear then, Darian laughed. Let me know if you find any for like Bless the Fall or Pierce the Veil. It was Reese and Darian Whitney's first time in a Goodwill since their mother took them as kids. Now they'd basically ended their YouTube channel for good and coasted off of income from previous videos, trying to make what money they'd saved last. They'd sold off a lot of the designer clothing they'd purchased to wear on camera and now needed to rebuild their wardrobes as cost-effectively as possible. At the end of the large shirts, Darian hung one salmon-colored t-shirt over his arm and said, Guess that's it. I'm gonna go check for shorts. Reese said, Good luck, I already looked through them. I might go check out the random stuff at the back. Cool, I'll come find you when I'm done. Reese made his way to the back of the store, eyeing shelves of used kitchenware, workout equipment, electronics, glassware, scanning for anything that might interest him. He noticed the long bookshelf at the very back of the store and thought, It's been a while since I've read a whole book. Maybe there's something good here. He perused the first few nonfiction books about war and politicians before scanning ahead to fiction. He was trying to think of names of any authors besides Stephen King, who he really only knew through movies. Oh, and Tom Clancy from old PS2 games. He saw a title which tripped his curiosity. A Confederacy of Dunces by someone named John Kennedy Toole. He picked it up, opened to a random page, and right away laughed at something he read. Find a good one? Darian asked, joining him with still only the salmon t-shirt in hand. Maybe, Reese replied. I don't know what it's about, but it seems like a wild book. Putting on a terrible British accent, Darian said, Let me know if you spot any Charles Dickens. Reese slapped his shoulder with a Confederacy of Dunces and said, Might not hurt you to read a book or two, you know. You pick up one book and now you're an advocate for literature? Darian teased. His eyes shot up to the top shelf, and he gasped. He reached up and pulled down a high school yearbook from 1984. Opening it, he asked, Think Mom and Dad are in here? Reese thought for a moment. 84? Let's see. They had me a few years after high school, so that means they graduated in like 91, maybe 92? Either way, you're a few years early. Darn, Darian sighed, putting the yearbook back. He removed the next book in line, a photo album that looked to be old but in pristine condition. He opened to a random page and turned the pages slowly, eventually saying to Reese, Isn't it kind of creepy how ordinary people's stuff just ends up here? Like, look at these pictures. This looks like some old lady's birthday party here. And then here's the same family at Christmas. These are like real people's memories, and they just end up here on a shelf for any random person to buy. They probably think someone will reuse the photo album, Reese suggested. Darian's lips twisted slightly to one side. Well, that just makes me sad. Buy it. Save these poor people's memories from being tossed away, Reese goaded. Darian rolled his eyes and reshelved the album. Ready to check out? Reese slapped his book and nodded. At the register, they waited in line while the cashier, who looked like he'd rather be smoking weed outside a Glass Animals concert, checked out a single mom with 3 rowdy kids, 2 elderly women who found the mother lode of colorful yarn, a 30-something in his pajamas with a stack of DVDs, and a lucky high school student who found a Texas Instruments graphing calculator still in the package for only $9.99. The second his eyes met the cashier's, Reese predicted the next words out of his mouth. Hey, are you Reese Whitney? The young man, probably in his early 20s, asked. His name tag called him Sarah. Reese said, Yep, and slid his book across the counter along with the Pink Floyd shirt. Darian set his salmon shirt next to it. The cashier snapped his fingers and pointed at him. And you're Darian. Cool. I knew you guys were from here. I just never expected you to come in here, you know? Figured you'd shop it somewhere nicer. Why not save some money and keep stuff out of the landfill, right, Sarah? Reese asked, seizing the opportunity to shift the focus away from himself. The cashier looked down at his name tag and laughed. Oh, sorry. That's just a joke my coworker and I do. It's dumb, I guess. My real name's Marcus. Marcus punched the button for Reese's paperback, but made it no further in the transaction before placing his hands flat on the counter, leaning forward slightly, and whispering, Did you guys know this place is haunted? Like, can you tell? No, must have missed it, Darian mumbled as he pulled out his wallet. To his surprise, Reese answered Marcus with a hint of enthusiasm. I guess it makes sense with all this old stuff here, huh? We were just saying it's kind of creepy that there's like old pictures of real families and stuff back there. Huh? Marcus asked. They were in a photo album, said Reese. Marcus cocked his head to see the bookshelf and, seemingly to himself, said, I think we're supposed to take the pictures out. Darian reclaimed Marcus's attention by asking where to set his empty basket. Marcus said he normally took them, but thanked Darian for offering and pointed him toward the same rack he'd picked it up from. By the time Darian returned to the register, Reese was listening intently to Marcus's description of the supposed haunting. Like, see all those ceiling tiles? One of them turns almost every night. This one right above me. It usually happens while we're closing. It's been going on for weeks. It'll be turned the right way 1 second, then when we're not looking, all of a sudden it's turned crooked. Does this turning tile happen to get caught on camera ever? Darian asked, hoping to bring a swift end to the conversation. Hearing his tone, Marcus started ringing them up again, but Darian's skepticism did not discourage him from telling his story. Well, so the cameras actually point down at a bit of an angle, so you can't actually see the ceiling in the videos. But we checked and nobody except us goes in or out all night. But boom, the tile gets turned almost every time. Sounds like somebody should take a look up there soon, Darian said. Probably cops, not a couple YouTubers. Marcus instinctively agreed. No, yeah. Wait, there's more than just the ceiling. When we have musical instruments here, sometimes they play themselves while we're closing up. No way, Reese cut in, betraying some authentic skepticism, much to Darian's relief. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little, Marcus admitted. They make us sound like somebody's touching them as they walk by. But you know what really happened once? I'm not making this up, I swear. We had this old record player in here once, all analog, you know? So we put some nothing old gospel record on it for display, and one night that record started spinning on its own. The music came out backwards, though, because the ghost or whatever spun it the wrong way. Darian said, Look, Marcus, I don't want to be rude, but we just don't do investigations like that anymore. We're focused on our attention is needed elsewhere for now. I'm sorry, but that's just not what we do anymore. Marcus pleaded, I can tell you don't believe me, but I swear it's all on camera. Well, except the ceiling. But the rest? It's nuts. Sarah, come over here and bring your phone. Sarah's kind of new, but she can vouch for me. Hang on, a pseudo-frustrated voice said from behind a dress rack. A short woman, maybe 20 years old, shuffled over with an armful of long skirts draped over the same arm with which she held her phone. Marcus said, Hey, could you... Sarah interrupted him. Yeah. She turned to the Whitneys. He has me pull this thing up so often I can hear it coming in his voice. I keep telling him he's got to clear up some space on his own phone so he can show people whenever he wants. Marcus shrugged. Well, I'm probably going to be getting a new phone really soon anyway, so... Sarah already had one of the videos queued up. She stood between Reese and Darian, holding her phone sideways for them to see. Darian felt her eyes studying his face. Then her head jerked toward Reese. Her mouth clicked open. Oh my God, you're the Whitney brothers. Marcus. Yeah, I know, Marcus crooned. That's why I wanted to show them. Okay, yeah, Sarah said breathlessly. Well, this is just the first night the ceiling tile turned. Marcus probably said already, but you can't see anything. Let me swipe to... Okay, here. The record player went off with nobody around. It's not even plugged in or anything. She scrubbed ahead about 4 minutes into the video, but she dragged her fingers slowly so the brothers could see neither she nor Marcus had gone near the standing record player off to the left side, that the store remained otherwise empty as they finished cleaning up. Then, at 4 minutes and 39 seconds, the lights flickered twice. The needle dropped onto the record, and the record began to spin backward, slowly. The recording's audio quality ranked just above muddy, but it was clear enough for them all to hear the eerie tones of drawn-out vocal harmonies amongst the shouts of surprise from Marcus and Sarah. Either a piano or an accordion accompanied the warped voices, its chords swelling with the reversed cymbals of gentle drums. The record played this way for just under 15 seconds, then scratched to a stop. The Marcus and Sarah in the video investigated, past Sarah pointing out that the end of the power cord was dangling behind the record player, obviously not plugged in. Present Sarah said, I have more clips of stuff falling over, instruments getting touched, lights flickering, typical haunting stuff. Why, are you guys thinking of making a video here? Darian quickly replied, No video. We were just, hang on, Reese interrupted. Reese. No, listen, all we'd have to do is come hang out here for a few hours at night. We set up a couple mics and cameras, we walk around with some of our gear. Maybe we get something, maybe we don't. What's the harm? Darian said, You make it sound fun, but we know how this can go. Don't forget why we stopped making videos in the first place. Darian, do you really think some evil force is playing records at our local Goodwill? Come on, it's probably just some basic poltergeist. Marcus butted in. Look, guys, it's not my business, but personally, I think it would be really cool to see another video from you. Also, we're really short-staffed right now because people keep quitting. Just can't work in a haunted store, you know? We're basically down to only me and Sarah working the afternoons all the way to close. Plus, you know we could use the funds, Reese added in a whisper. He had a point, Darian had to admit. He looked at both Marcus and Sarah. I need you both to swear that you didn't manipulate anything in those videos. You have to promise that this is 100% real, because if I find out otherwise... Sarah nodded. It's real. 100%, added Marcus. Darian looked once more at Reese, pleading him not to go through with the plan, but quietly submitting that he would go along. Reese returned a look that was almost apologetic before slapping his hands on the counter and, with a childish grin, saying, We'll be back after close. The brothers met Marcus and Sarah outside the Goodwill at 10 o'clock that night. The sky had only just darkened enough for the stars and quarter moon to shine, and it was still so humid they both broke a sweat hauling their duffel bag and backpack full of gear up to the door. Sarah let them in. Lights? Sarah asked. Darian considered, then answered, Probably leave them off, at least for now. Any extra electricity might mess with our equipment. Sarah's hand, hovering over the light switch, dropped to her side. So what kind of stuff did you bring? Marcus asked with the excitement of a child. He led them as far as the register, then stopped. The front counter made about as much sense as anywhere to set their gear. Reese said, not much, honestly. We sold a lot of the fancy stuff. Besides the cameras, EMF readers, cat balls, a spirit box, that's pretty much it. We also have Darian. He's got a strong connection to the other side and tends to draw spirits out of hiding. Darian wasn't listening. He was, at that very moment, attempting to tap into his connection to sense any nearby presences. He felt none. Good news and bad news, he said. Marcus and Sarah both turned toward him from staring silently into the dark store. I'm not really sensing anyone here. The bad news is, obviously, that might mean we're all wasting our time. The good news is I tend to pick up on dark or evil spirits easiest. I guess that means we're safe. At least for now. That's something, Reese said. He stood and handed 2 elastic headbands to their hosts, then pulled 2 small cameras out of his duffel and handed those over as well. He said, "These cameras have enough battery to make it through the night, so keep them on and recording the whole time. Between our handhelds, your head cams, and the security cameras, nothing's gonna escape us tonight." "The cameras won't, make the ghost shy?" Sarah asked. "Probably not," Darian replied. He still had a fairly poor attitude about making this video. He guessed there would be many more questions to answer, so he didn't want to waste his limited patience early on. Besides, they'd never had a problem with camera-shy ghosts before. "I mean, we don't have a choice either way," Reese said. "If we don't capture it on camera, doesn't matter if it really happened or not, right? Nobody will believe it if they can't watch it for themselves." "Good point," Marcus replied with contrived thoughtfulness. "You guys need anything else from your car?" Sarah asked, her keys jingling from the end of her finger. Darian said, "No, I don't think so." Sarah nodded, turned toward the door, and inserted her key. The lock clicked with a quarter turn and thunked in place when it turned the rest of the way. The metallic thunk echoed once, dull but expansive, throughout the store. Darian turned his head toward a rack of clothing where he could have sworn he just heard a brief, shrill scrape of metal on metal, like someone had just shoved a section of shirts over an inch. He didn't sense anything in that direction, but he reminded himself not to rely on his additional sense too much. It was not nearly as honed as he would have liked it to be. Reese said, "Everyone grab a flashlight. I'm going to take some of this stuff to the back and see if we can start drawing out some..." A burst of soft noise and another brief scraping cut him short. Everyone's heads turned as a few shirts on the far side of the nearest rack exploded outward, twisting upward while their hangers anchored them to the rail, as if a playful child had just burst through and out the other side. The clothes on the next rack buckled inward, then exploded outward in the same way. From rack to rack, through shirts, coats, skirts, and pants, something bulleted through until it reached the bookshelf lining the back wall. A few books toppled off the end of the shelf, then all went still. "I think it's drawn out already," Sarah whispered. "Anything?" Reese asked Darian. Darian shook his head. His eyes closed, his hands clenched as he reached outward with his invisible feelers. "Okay," Reese replied. "Marcus, Sarah, I need you to listen very carefully. Neither of you should ever be without one of us tonight, okay? If Darian can't detect it, there's a decent chance it's not human." "Well, yeah, I think we knew that already," Marcus said, picking up one of the flashlights Reese mentioned and nudging Sarah as if to say, "Do these guys think we're stupid?" Darian replied, "An inhuman spirit is something that never was human. Ghosts are the spirits of people who've passed on. Inhuman spirits are things like demons and poltergeists." "What do you think this one is?" Sarah asked. Darian said, "We've only been here a minute. Let's hope it's not a demon, though. If we find out it is, we quit and regroup. Got it?" "Yeah," Marcus croaked. He looked toward the back of the store again. The air conditioner kicked on. The sudden rattling of its fan made them all jump. Their heads all turned in different directions. As soon as they realized what made the noise, they looked back at one another, and starting with Sarah, they each began to laugh. Reese spoke first. "I think we should skip all the quote-unquote hunting and try to establish communication. What do you think, Darian? Spirit box?" "Makes the most sense to me," Darian agreed. "Let's set it up towards the middle." They left the register area and made their way to the approximate center of the store. Fortunately, someone donated a futon and a fainting couch recently. The quartet started turning them to face each other. Halfway rotated, Marcus dropped his corner of the couch and turned around. "Look, that's what I'm talking about," he shouted, pointing at an upward angle toward the front of the store. There, right above the register where they had all been standing perhaps a minute earlier, the ceiling tile had been rotated into a diamond orientation, leaving black triangular gaps in the ceiling where, Though he did not sense anyone, Darian distinctly felt like he was being watched. He asked, "There's zero chance that somebody's up there right now messing with us?" "What about the clothes?" Marcus asked in reply. The presence of the paranormal didn't negate the chance of a human creep lurking around, though. It did help Darian shrug off the possibility for the moment, however. They sat with the Whitneys on the futon and the Goodwill staff on the couch. "Right, well, let's get started," Reese said. He put on something close to his old YouTube voice. "So here's my thinking. This is a thrift store, obviously. Who knows who donates any of this stuff, right? Nobody knows where it came from, who it belonged to, and there's some pretty old stuff in here. A lot of history. I'm just wondering if something, some spirit, came in attached to an item someone donated." "What if they donated it here to get rid of the spirit?" Sarah suggested. "Cruel, but possible," Darian said. "I'm trying to think if anybody brought anything weird in around the time the spooky stuff started," Marcus told Sarah. "Can you think of anything? It wasn't that long after you started." Sarah bunched her lips to one side and shrugged. "What about that record player? Where's that?" asked Reese. Sarah said, "Sold last week." Reese nodded. "Huh. Well, let's fire up the spirit box and see if we can learn anything that might help us figure this out." He set the rectangular, grated metal box in his lap as he explained to Darian's camera, "If you don't know, this thing basically cycles through radio waves, picking up random signals. Supposedly, spirits can control it and use words and phrases from radio stations to talk to us. It seems sketchy to me, honestly, but it's worked for us before." Reese and Darian shared a knowing look. Reese turned on the box. "Are there any spirits who want to communicate with us here?" he asked. Pulsing static hissed from the box, but no words. Darian said, "We'd like to help you if we can. We want to know where you came from." Still no response. Something made a hollow, woody thump behind Marcus and Sarah's couch. They both leapt to their feet. Marcus extended his right arm protectively in front of Sarah. "I'll check it out," Darian whispered to Reese. Still, only static from the spirit box. Darian crept around the fainting couch, extending his neck for a peek at whatever made the hollow sound. Across the aisle from the back of the couch, a large white chest sat on the floor at the end of a clothes rack, its price tag swinging slightly. "Reese, ask another question," Darian whispered. Whoever's here with us, did you make that sound?" The thud repeated, although this time it was more of a rattling bang. The chest tipped slightly upward, knocking against the end of the clothes rack. The price tag swung wildly. Darian, no stranger to the paranormal, nearly fell over the back of the fainting couch. He was so startled. "It's the chest! It's the chest! It's the chest!" he shouted as he recovered. Reese shut off the spirit box and stood. Marcus and Sarah moved closer together. "Should we open it?" Marcus asked. Darian nodded, but clearly did not intend to volunteer. "Hang on, that's not a good idea," Reese protested. "I mean, there's no chance someone's really stuck in there, right?" "Probably not," Sarah replied. "Probably?" Darian snapped. Behind him, a series of clapping noises projected from one of the shelves. Everyone turned their lights toward it. This particular shelf, an end cap, displayed various decorative letters. Some made of metal looked like they came from a wedding venue in a barn. Others made of plastic and wood looked appropriate for a child's bedroom or playroom. These assorted letters, formerly standing erect, all fell flat. Reese turned his flashlight back toward the chest, illuminating a family of 3 small bear figurines, clearly modeled after the fairy tale characters, standing on top of the white chest. He knew for certain they had not been there before. The bear's eyes stared straight ahead at the group's shins. Standing in a row, each holding their right hand in the air in a frozen wave or salute, they looked somewhat menacing, like at any moment they could come alive and attack. Darian? Reese whispered. Darian had approached the letter shelf, but turned at the sound of Reese's voice. How'd those get there? They heard Marcus whisper to Sarah. She didn't answer. It's toying with us, Darian said, stepping toward the chest and the bears. He scrunched his face and looked at Reese. Is it showing us it's attached to these? Reese turned the spirit box back on and immediately asked, Is Darian right? You're trying to show us what you're attached to? A blip from a jazz instrumental cut through the static for less than a second before the box went unresponsive again. Can I offer an idea? Sarah asked. She looked anxiously between the two brothers. They both offered silent gestures welcoming her input. It touched the letters, right? What if we used them instead of the spirit box? Like, what if we set up maybe a Y for yes and an N for no? We could add other words too. Oh, and it could knock over whichever one it is? Asked Marcus. That's good, actually, Reese agreed. Why don't you grab the letters? I'm going to talk to Darian over by the books for a second. Stay in sight, though. Remember, nobody goes off alone. Got it, Sarah and Marcus simultaneously replied. By the bookshelf, Reese asked Darian, Do you still think this is safe for them? This is one of the most active spirits we've ever seen, right? At least somewhere so normal. I agree, said Darian. I'm not really sure yet, but I do have the beginnings of a theory about what might be happening. Earlier, you mentioned a poltergeist. That would track with all the super obvious activity, but also the fact that I'm not sensing any sort of evil. I mean, it's acting creepy as hell, but weirdly enough, I'm not scared. Are you? Honestly? Reese said, Well, Marcus and Sarah seem pretty freaked out, but that's understandable for their first time. I'm with you. I'm more curious than scared right now. Does it want us to think it's evil? Good question, Darian replied. He watched their hosts cautiously remove the bears from the chest and replace them with a 6-inch wooden letter Y and metal N with small light bulbs lining it. He coughed out a brief laugh. Well, they're scared, but definitely a little brave, too. The Whitney brothers returned to their hosts, prepared to conduct the conversation with what they now believed to be a mischievous poltergeist. They would still need to exercise caution as they would in dealing with any inhuman spirit, but when it came to inhuman spirits, a poltergeist was likely the best-case scenario. They would not notice until days later while reviewing their footage from that night, but as they passed by a shelf of knickknacks, a porcelain jester wearing striped purple clothes and tiny silver bells dangling from points around its feet and hat turned its head to follow them. Good news, Reese said once the group was whole again. We still think it's an inhuman spirit, but nothing distinctly evil. We think it's a poltergeist, said Darian. Isn't that bad? Like the kind that sucks you into the TV? Asked Sarah. Smiling, Reese said, In movies, sure. In reality, a poltergeist is kind of just a bully. I don't think anyone knows why, but they like to mess with people, try to drive them crazy. They screw with electricity, move stuff around, make noises. Darian took over. They can show up pretty randomly, but some events or locations can trigger poltergeist hauntings too, from my understanding. What about an object like you guys were trying to find before? Asked Marcus. Could a poltergeist tag along with something someone donated? Reese and Darian shared a look before Darian said, It wouldn't be honest for us to answer that with any certainty. It's just impossible to know everything about the spirit world. What we can do is keep investigating. Actually, let's hope this thing is attached to some object, because poltergeists are notoriously hard to get rid of. Unless there's something we can physically remove from this store, we might not be able to get rid of it He was going to say tonight, but trailed off when he realized no one was listening to him. They were all staring past him at something about 6 feet above the floor. He turned around to see. A lamp, the first on a long shelf full of them, had turned on by itself. Its power cord was wrapped around and taped to its base, the unplugged end clearly visible. While they watched, the lamp began to dim as, simultaneously, the next lamp to its left started to glow. When the first lamp went dark, the next reached full brightness. The second lamp then dimmed as the third brightened. This pattern continued all the way down the shelf until a lava lamp tucked against the wall at the end of the shelf slowly glowed red, and one smooth bubble rose to its top. Then all went dark again. "Is it leading us somewhere?" asked Marcus. Before either of the Whitneys could answer, Sarah shouted, "Who's there?" She aimed her trembling flashlight through the shelves. The men all looked toward where she pointed. They all received a sharp fright from the shape of hulking, hairy shoulders and a large, round head studying them through the shelves. Darian had the best angle from his position, so his flashlight struck the gargantuan figure head on. "Oh," Marcus said. All four of them began to laugh. Through chuckles, Marcus turned to Sarah and said, "Sorry, I forgot I put him out today." Darian's flashlight had illuminated an enormous brown teddy bear sitting on top of a dresser near the corner with the lava lamp. Its head looked roughly the size of two of theirs, though its black eye beads were still the size of a normal stuffed animal's. "Okay, let's get back on track," said Darian. Sarah said, "You were saying we need to remove whatever this poltergeist is attached to?" Darian nodded. "Basically, yeah. If it's attached to an object someone donated, that'll make it easier to get rid of. Hopefully. Hey, Marcus, do you still have those little bears?" Marcus turned around to the futon and picked up two of the three bear figurines. The third was nowhere in sight. Guys," said Marcus, "did somebody already grab the baby bear?" "You left them all right there, right?" asked Sarah. Marcus nodded. Reese crouched and shone his light beneath the futon and fainting couch, then across the floor in general. He could not find the smallest figurine anywhere. "It's okay, it's just the poltergeist messing with us," Darian said, drawing their attention back to him. "I was going to have the three of you each hold one to try to connect you to the spirit. I'm already sensitive to the paranormal, so I'd probably be fine without one. But since there's only two now, I have a different idea. Reese, what if you take one of the bears and conduct the conversation with the poltergeist, and one of you takes the other one?" He indicated Marcus and Sarah. "Then I'll take the other one of you to the back to look around and see if anything sticks out to me. I might pick up on something helpful back there. Or maybe not. I just know I'm not getting anything useful out here." Reese said, "Sounds like a plan. Who's sticking with me?" "You know the back better than I do," Marcus told Sarah. She considered this, then agreed. "I'll take you back there," she told Darian. Reese reached out for one of the bears Marcus was holding and accepted Mama Bear. He and Darian exchanged nods. Then the group split. Reese and Marcus stood awkwardly in front of the white chest, the two letters standing upright as if patiently waiting for one of them to speak. Reese looked down at the bear in his hand, then closed his eyes. He breathed deeply, trying to find some sliver of a connection to the thing which had first put the bears in front of them. "Are you sure you want me doing this part?" he called to his brother, who was just about to disappear through the door to the back. Darian answered, "You've got it. Just ask simple questions and sort of feel outwards. We'll be back soon." The door closed behind him. "So you're the gifted one, right?" Sarah asked. "We can work on another way to say it," Darian laughed. "But yes." His sense of humor had begun to return after the startling moment with the large bear. The Goodwill's back room contained about twice as many items as were on the selling floor in roughly half the space. Most of the donations were piled in open-top square boxes lined in rows of 3. Each row must have been as long as a 15-passenger van. Darian shone his flashlight over the rows of goods and, turning the subject off himself, asked, "You guys have to go through all this stuff?" "Eventually," Sarah replied. "It adds up, but we've got a smooth system here." "Seems like a lot," said Darian. Sarah shrugged. "I could easily say the same about your job. Ghost hunting? I'm assuming your guys' videos are real, right? I mean, like, since you're here." "They've all been real for a long time," Darian replied. "We used to fake it, but we deleted all those videos once we found out paranormal stuff really does exist." Sarah said, "It's so exciting, isn't it? To first learn something so—" She cut herself off, her tongue tripping on her teeth as the next word shattered against them. She stammered, obviously pretending to be unable to find the next word, like she had simply lost her train of thought instead of catching herself saying something she didn't mean to. "It's okay," Darian said. "I know you don't know me, but you can trust me. I won't judge. There's stuff I won't talk about in our videos. Real stuff. Because I feel like it's so insane people will straight up not believe anything else we do or say." Sarah completed a full scan of the room with her flashlight, mostly to stall since she had no idea what she was supposed to be looking for. Darian kept looking too, patiently awaiting his host's response. It finally came after a broken start. It's not like I care that much what people think, but kind of like what you said, it's just that I don't want people not to trust me or think I've lost it." "You've seen something?" Darian asked. Sarah shook her head no, but she considered for a moment longer, then said, "Well, actually, sort of. Not like a ghost or anything like that, but I think I've seen what I think might be the other side. It was like a tunnel, like a huge tunnel. Well, it felt like a tunnel more than it looked like one. It was weird. It was like so huge, but I remember it like I saw all of it at once. It was so bright and colorful, and there were all these shapes kind of floating everywhere. I think they were people." Darian stopped looking around to look directly at Sarah now. He asked, "How did you get there?" "My little sister," she replied after hesitating. "Hey, what about jewelry? We keep a bunch in that cubby to go out later." It took Darian's brain a moment to recover from the sudden change of subject. I mean, the spirit could be attached to something like that. Let's take a look. But so, your sister?" Sarah led him to the cubby of jewelry with loose drawers full of bracelets, rings, and sandwich-baggied necklaces. She said, "My sister, Betsy, is what they call nonverbal. She's pretty far on the autism spectrum and has barely made a sound her entire life. She didn't really even cry as a baby." She handed Darian a drawer full of rings and said, "See if you sense anything from these while I explain. So, Betsy can't talk, and even though I knew it was mean and probably not true, as a kid I always thought she was just dumb. Stupid, I mean. I know that's wrong, but I'm just being honest." "You said as a kid, right?" Darian offered. "Yeah, up until I turned 13, Sarah said. She sighed. "I should tell you about me so I can explain how all this connects. When I was 5, I started noticing feelings nobody else seemed to. My mom, who still thinks I was just being a little kid, says I used to say things like, 'Does it feel angry in here?' when we'd visit friends' houses. I wish I could remember this because it sounds like a really beautiful moment, but the first time we went to visit our grandma after my grandpa died, I guess I said, 'Grandpa's love is still here, Grandma.' And even though nobody understood that I actually felt my grandpa's love like a warm hug around me, they all decided to believe me that time." Darian interrupted. He held up his camera and pointed at the one on Sarah's head. "You sure you're okay talking about this?" "Oh God," Sarah said, her eyes zooming wide. It's okay, Darian laughed. "It's not like we're live. I'll just cut all of this out when we edit it for YouTube." "Thanks," Sarah gasped, blushing. Darian smiled. Just don't forget to turn it off if you need to go to the bathroom or something. Yeah, got it, Sarah laughed. Well, anyway, I could basically only sense vibes until right around my 13th birthday. Not like literally on my birthday. God, please edit this. It basically changed when I went through puberty. I stopped sensing the aura of every place we went, so in that way my sense dulled, but it also became a lot sharper. Like when something from the other side had a powerful enough presence or left a deep enough scar on a place, then I could feel it clearly. And I also started hearing a voice. Like, all the time? Darian asked. No, Sarah said, masking an obvious joy behind her stoic storyteller's face. She said, I only ever heard it when I was with my sister. Darian's eyebrows shot up and his eyes widened. He set his drawer full of bracelets on a nearby desk, then turned to her and projected some indistinguishable body language that told Sarah he would do nothing else until she told him more. She chuckled. I know, it's really cool and a lot to take in, but yeah, she started speaking to me telepathically. Darian asked, So, do you think she was the one with the gift the whole time and you were just kind of catching waves of it? No, Sarah replied. My gift is definitely mine, and it's totally separate from what's going on with Betsy. They just happen to share a little crossover. And what's going on with Betsy? Darian asked. Sarah took a long breath before answering, This is going to sound crazy now, but in a couple decades I really don't think it will. It's something they've only just started studying. Apparently, according to the research and what Betsy's told me herself, a lot of nonverbal people can communicate telepathically, even read minds. Betsy was so excited when she figured out I could hear her. She's the only person I can hear, though. I'm not sure if that's because we're sisters or what. Darian said, I don't mean this in a mean way, but that sounds like something straight out of a bad sci-fi movie. Sarah shrugged. I know, and if somebody else had told me before I experienced it, I would have gotten pretty upset on my sister's behalf. It sounds like one of those weird ableist tropes about handicaps being superpowers, but you should look it up tomorrow. It's starting to get some serious attention. Let's keep looking around. So, have you been feeling for our spirit too? I'm just surprised I haven't sensed you at all, Darian asked. I haven't been actively doing anything, Sarah replied questioningly. I usually just wait for a sensation to hit, then I focus in on it. Okay, hold this. Try this, Darian said, positioning himself right next to her. I'm going to try to teach you to feel outward. This might work best if we turn off our flashlights, but you can just point yours down if that's all you're comfortable with. Sarah pointed her flashlight downward. Then she looked up at Darian. A somewhat fearful look of trust glossed her eyes, and she clicked the flashlight off. This might be a waste of time, Reese admitted after he saw Marcus yawn. After over a dozen questions asked to the standing letters and no sign of movement, he needed a change of plan. Let's not get too crazy with Darian and Sarah gone, but I think we should see if we can drum up a little action, Reese said. Okay, Marcus half mumbled, open-mouthed. We know the poltergeist has messed with a bunch of random objects, Reese said, beginning a slow stroll toward the center shelves full of knickknacks and miscellaneous household items. He spoke aloud to himself for the audience's sake. Have the objects it's touched followed any sort of pattern? No. Have they been dangerous? No, not really. So it's probably not trying to hurt us. Maybe if we provoke it a little bit, we'll be able to guess. He went quiet when a rapid jingling rang just behind his ear. He'd barely stepped into the aisle, merely inches from the end cap where the sound originated. Frozen in place, he asked Marcus, Did you see anything? No, just heard bells or something, Marcus replied, evidently still standing where Reese left him. Reese turned his head to look over his shoulder. His eyes immediately caught a glimmer from Marcus's flashlight reflecting off what almost certainly made the jingling sound. A porcelain doll painted like a jester with tiny silver bells hanging from each of its legs, as well as the 6 droopy points of its hat. The jester's eyes met Reese's. He slowly raised his hand like a claw to pick the jester up, but stopped. While he didn't quite share Darian's level of comfort with the paranormal, nor was he really scared of it anymore, the stuff still creeped him out. He compared it to how a perfectly harmless spider can still make your skin crawl when you see it poised in the corner of your bathroom. The jester gave him that same icky feeling. He lowered his hand. Across the rows of shelves from them, a rustling preceded a light thud on the floor. It sounded like a pillow landing. Reese nodded at Marcus to follow him, then cut through the shelves to investigate. "Look, there on the floor," Marcus whispered, pointing his light through the last shelf at something Reese couldn't see yet. He backtracked and crouched next to Marcus to see where he was pointing. At the end of his flashlight's glow, a children's Minnie Mouse sleeping bag had rolled off of the toy shelf along the wall. It was moving. One of the elastic loops slipped off of the pink roll, allowing it to expand until it slipped out of the second loop. If the sleeping bag had been precariously shelved, physics could explain all of this. But Reese and Marcus watched without breathing as the bag slowly unfurled itself across the floor. Where the sleeping bag left the boundaries of physics was when it continued sliding across the aisle until it lay perfectly flat. Reese broke away from Marcus to circle the shelf in front of them for a better view. Marcus followed closely. "I'm not sure if I can deal with much more of this," he whispered. Reese didn't acknowledge him. He kept his focus glued to the sleeping bag, which now looked pregnant with a lump in the middle running its entire length. The jester's bells rang again, and now out of sight, the 2 letters they'd left standing fell over. Reese held up a hand to pause Marcus behind him. They both watched the sleeping bag as Minnie Mouse's smile and her big white eyes slowly rose and fell ever so slightly in the rhythm of a child's sleeping breath. Reese was about to speak when Marcus suddenly screamed behind him. He heard Marcus's flashlight clatter to the floor as he spun around to see what happened. Marcus crashed against the back shelf, the one with the lamps on top, which had begun to glow on and off in an erratic pattern, but Marcus's impact was cushioned by the giant teddy bear which had startled them all earlier. Somehow, it had fallen from the dresser and landed on Marcus's back. "It won't let go! It won't let go of my neck!" Marcus screamed. From Reese's angle, he couldn't tell whether Marcus was holding the bear's padded paws against his own throat or trying to rip them away. Based on how the employee was flailing around and turning red, he guessed it was the latter. "Stay still," Reese commanded, rushing forward to help. Marcus's camera flew off his head and hit Reese in the face, stopping him briefly. The camera hit the floor and Reese slid it out of the way with his foot, then lunged at the bear clinging to Marcus. He dug his fingers into its plush arm, expecting a strong resistance, but as soon as he touched the bear, it went limp and fell away on its own. Marcus jumped over his own flashlight to get away. The bear fell to the floor, face down, and perfectly still. "What happened?" Reese asked. Marcus reached down for his light, trembling the whole way. "What's going on?" Darren yelled, bursting out of the back room with Sarah in tow, both wearing understandable looks of concern. "I'm done," Marcus stated. He turned to Sarah. "I can't do this anymore. It was fun and spooky or whatever, but I can't do it anymore. I have to get out of here. I have to leave. I can't be—" "Marcus," Sarah cooed, but Marcus was already on his way to the door. She chased after him. "What happened?" Darian asked Reese. "That stuffed bear fell on him. It wouldn't let go until I grabbed it. I'm not surprised he's freaked out." Darian said, "It's probably better to let him go. What we're about to do might be too much for him anyway." "What's that?" asked Reese. Darian pointed after Sarah. "If I'm gifted, dude, she's blessed. Know how I haven't been able to sense anything here?" Reese nodded. "Well, apparently I just needed a boost because there are spirits everywhere here. Sarah showed me. As soon as I coached her through how to use her sensitivity, she'll just have to show you when she gets back." Reese said, "So when you say there's spirits everywhere..." The front door opened, jingling the bell. Sarah locked it behind herself before making her way back to them. "I'm so excited I almost couldn't even talk to him," she said, grinning. Her expression suddenly turned to one of disgust, and she said, "Ugh, it's like that creepy jester is staring at me." "Is Marcus okay?" asked Reese, reaching back to lay the jester down. "Yeah, he's gonna walk home and let the fresh air calm him down. He'll be all right." Darian said, "Good. Now we can do the exciting part. Turn your flashlights off." They all did. Then Darian and Sarah turned toward one another and reached their arms straight across for each other's shoulders. Darian bowed his head and closed his eyes, then gave one brief nod to Reese, checking that his camera was recording this moment, before saying, "Okay, do it." Reese braced, unsure what for. Sarah closed her eyes like Darian, then whispered a countdown. 3, 2, 1. Reese could never have prepared enough. The jester sat up behind him, ringing its bells. The baby bear figurine slid out from under the futon, and its parents danced to the edge to greet him. The white chest began thumping so hard it jolted off of the floor a few times. Backpacks on clothing racks unzipped and zipped as hanging clothes all over the store burst out of the way of invisible forces darting through them. These things occurred not in sequence, but simultaneously in the span of less than 5 seconds. Lamps turned on and off, toys lit up and made noises, books fell to the floor. Distantly, Reese thought he could hear voices laughing, sobbing, scolding, and cheering. Some sounded as far away as the back room, but none of the voices sounded clear enough for him to pinpoint their origin. "Okay, that's enough," said Darian. No sooner had his lips closed than the store went silent again. Reese stammered. "I see why you thought Marcus might be better off outside. Can I turn my flashlight on now?" "Go ahead," replied Darian, turning on his own light. Sarah, looking dumbfounded and frozen in place, said, "That felt way stronger than earlier. I kept my eyes shut, but it sounded like a lot of them came out. Were there more than last time?" "Way more," said Darian. Reese looked understandably confused, but Darian nodded to let him know an explanation would be on its way shortly. "You feeling okay?" he asked Sarah first. She took a moment to assess herself before answering, Yeah, I think so. I feel a little tired from using so much energy, but yeah, I'm okay." "Good." Darian turned fully to Reese. He spread his arms wide and made a face which said, "You're not going to believe this. We figured out who the poltergeist is," he said. "Who?" asked Reese. As far as he knew, a poltergeist was a what? Darian brought his arms together to point at Sarah. "It's her. She's what's causing this. Her energy is so strong, she's like powering a bunch of ghosts. The unconscious looping kind. You know, imprinted echoes. And in a place like this, there are a lot of them." Reese clarified. "You mean spirits repeating something from their past?" "More like reflections than spirits, but essentially, yeah," answered Sarah. "You don't seem surprised by any of this," Reese observed. Sarah shrugged, unsure how to begin explaining why she sort of knew what to expect. "She told me some stuff off camera that I'll tell you later," Darian explained for her. "For now, all you need to know is that there are literally hundreds of echoes here. This Goodwill, and probably every single thrift store in the world, is definitely haunted, but not how we originally thought." Sarah took over. "He's right. It's all been me. Not on purpose, but I've basically been energizing the echoes with my anxiety. When I get anxious about seeing a spirit do something, that energy gets absorbed by the spirit and basically manifests what I'm worried about happening. So why isn't that happening right now? Asked Reese. Sarah said, I'll need to keep practicing, but Darian showed me the basics of how I can harness my ability. I feel way more in control now. Darian added, I couldn't feel anything because there's nothing conscious here. She and I are both connected to the paranormal, but in completely different ways. I sense conscious spirits, and she sees echoes. Reese appeared to take this in for a moment. Darian and Sarah gave him the silence and space to do so. Reese ended the pause by asking, So, all the creepy stuff that keeps happening, that's you? Wait, were you guys messing around with this in the back room? Is that why the sleeping bag and the bear? With a slow down hand gesture, Sarah answered, It's because of me, but I'm not doing it myself. I'm just powering the spirits who are. She's basically been accidentally making them more active and giving them the strength to interact with physical objects, Darian clarified. But when she focuses her attention on something, intentionally... Sarah, could you just show him? Sure. Sarah stepped back and looked around. She noticed a pink backpack hanging from an end cap. It had been one of those zipping and unzipping during the chaotic spree of activity. She turned toward the backpack, closed her eyes, and bowed her head. Then she gasped, Oh my God, I can actually see her. Keep focusing all your attention on her, Darian replied. Sarah continued in whispers, She's just a little girl. She's trying to lift the backpack off the hook, but she's not tall enough. Should I? Asked Reese. Darian shrugged. Reese walked over to the backpack. No, wait, Sarah said. Give her a second. She's grabbing the long zipper along the top of the backpack began to slide across. As it slid, the backpack opened, hanging like a tongue. She's reaching inside, Sarah reported. She's grabbing... Oh, she didn't grab anything. She looks content, though. As soon as Sarah said content, the zipper began to close. When it stopped, Sarah opened her eyes. She disappeared. Whatever she grabbed in the past must not be in there anymore, Darian hypothesized. Her ghost is just going through the motions. Oh, but she was so little. I don't want to think about what might have happened to her. She's not necessarily dead, right? Reese asked. I mean, if that was just an echo of something she did once, why would she have to be dead for that memory to play out? That's not her real spirit, like her soul, right? Darian nodded slowly. I guess that could be. She might have just loved this backpack so much she left an imprint on it. These echoes, said Sarah. They're happening all the time, aren't they? All around us. Places, things, they have memories too, I think. Oh, that's definitely true. Even I know that, said Reese. Sarah asked, So, am I just not able to work here? I mean, I don't usually notice anything during the day, not until after close. I have a theory about that too, said Darian. We've figured out your focused attention is what causes the weird stuff to happen. Maybe you've told yourself stuff only happens at night, so you're not thinking about it during the day. Does that make sense? It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. The stuff only shows up when you start looking for it, and you don't start looking for it until everyone else is gone. Well, everyone except Marcus, Sarah said. Give it time, Reese said. I've watched Darian learn how and when to use his gifts, and it hasn't always been an easy... I'm still learning in a lot of ways, Darian cut in. Reese added, but now that he's gotten a pretty good grip on it, he can control it. I'm sure you'll be able to too. And while you're working it out, feel free to get in touch, Darian said. He pulled out his wallet, hoping he might still have an old business card or two in there. He found one tarnished, faded card with a creased corner and handed it to Sarah. I think that's my last one. Thank you, Sarah replied. She needn't have said any more. They walked out into the night together after collecting all of their cameras, flashlights, and other gear they'd removed from their duffels. Now came the awkward part Reese and Darian always dreaded more than any, or at least most, spirits. The farewell. How do you appropriately part from someone you've just shared such an intense experience with? Well, said Reese. So, said Sarah. Darian spread his arms out, his duffel flopping behind his back. Sarah walked into his arms and embraced him. He squeezed her back, saying, "Welcome to your new world." "Thanks for showing it to me," she replied. They separated. Reese gave her an affirming nod. "Oh wait, one more thing," she said. "If I do run into a ghost that's, I was going to say alive, but that's not right." "Conscious?" Reese asked. "Yeah, and stuck. If I find one that, can't move on, what should I do?" Darian smiled. "That's a question for the ghost." Sarah exhaled through pursed lips. Okay, I can do this," she told herself. Darian's smile broadened and he waved goodbye. He yelled back to her, "You've got this, just follow your instincts. That's all we ever do." Reese held his arms out to the side and said, "Yeah, and look at us, the most famous customers at the Goodwill." Sarah laughed, and Darian thought she looked serene. "Have a good night, guys," she said, before turning to walk to her car. Reese and Darian nodded to one another, then did the same. The Whitney brothers were shocked when they reviewed the footage from that night. While they didn't capture any full-bodied spirits on camera, whenever something strange occurred, a blurry distortion like a crease, a fold in time, could be seen right next to the object in action. And, almost to an occurrence, whenever something happened, they could find Sarah looking toward it. Maybe she only glanced at it over her shoulder or passing by, but whenever her attention caught on something, even for the briefest moment, an occurrence was sure to follow. "Look at the timestamps on these two clips," Darian said, pointing to the clip of he and Sarah in the back room and then to one from Reese's camera when the sleeping bag toppled onto the floor. They watched the bear clip next, noting the exact time Marcus shouted in surprise. It coordinated perfectly with the moment Sarah fully locked into her power. "It really was her the whole time," said Reese. After a moment's thought, he asked, "So what do we do? Can we post this? Should we?" Darian said, "It could be one of our best videos, but I don't know." He thought for a while, as did his brother. Then a thought occurred to him. What if there are other people out there with gifts like Sarah's? She mentioned some kind of connection her sister has too. A lot of people could benefit from knowing this stuff is real. There might be someone out there right now thinking they're crazy when this stuff could prove to them that they're not. Would Sarah be okay with us making her abilities so public? "Even if she is, I'm not," replied Darian. "Let's blur her face and mute any mention of her name. Marcus too, just for good measure. But let's leave the rest in." Reese gave him a thumbs up and kept editing. "And Reese?" asked Darian. "Yep," Reese replied. "Thank you. Thanks for dragging me into this one. I really didn't want to do it. Everything's just felt so heavy and so consequential. But this was fun, and look what we did for Sarah." "Probably scarred Marcus for life, though," Reese laughed. He reached over and hugged his brother's shoulders. "I'm glad I dragged you into it too. What do you think? Is it time to get back into this? Ghost hunting?" Darian took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, then turned to Reese with bright eyes. The day manager, Mike, pulled Sarah aside when she arrived for work the next day. He didn't look happy. "Everything okay?" Sarah asked, wondering if she, Marcus, or the Whitneys forgot something that gave away their overnight ghost hunt. She hadn't mentioned it to anyone only because she hadn't felt it necessary and did not want to discuss what had happened. Mike pointed at the crooked ceiling tile above the register and said, "Sarah, that tile is only ever turned after you close the store, okay? I'm not accusing you of anything, I'm just asking, what are you doing up there every night?" Sarah shrugged. "I must keep bumping it with the broom handle or something." Mike looked to her, barely 5'3", then to the ceiling tile 9 feet up. He looked back at Sarah, scrunched his brow, and shook his head slightly, clearly not buying this explanation. Whatever's happening, please just try to pay attention and make sure it stops. I have to get a ladder out to fix it. Yeah, sure, sorry, Sarah replied. As soon as Mike walked away and she made sure no customers were shopping nearby, Sarah focused on the ceiling tile and closed her eyes. Like Darian Whitney showed her, she pushed outward with her feelings, her thoughts, her emotions, like expanding her soul into the ether. And there, she saw a man dressed in a sweat-soaked gray t-shirt and tan cargo pants climbing an invisible ladder toward the ceiling. He reached through the rotated tile, messed with some wires or something else that was no longer there in the present. Then, much to Sarah's satisfaction, he pushed up on the tile. She gave him a focused boost as he rotated the tile back in place. Then she backed off as he descended his invisible ladder. She went to the back to find Mike and let him know he wouldn't need the ladder after all.
You made it out. Congratulations. If you enjoyed the story, please rate, like, review, or subscribe. For ad-free episodes and behind-the-scenes episodes I call Into the Woods, become a patron with the link in the description. You can also support the show by buying merch. That link is also in the description below. To stay up to date, follow me on Instagram and TikTok at The Warning Woods. And when you feel ready, meet me here for another journey into the Warning Woods. Thank you for listening.